Assalamu alaikum. Hello, my dear students. How are you all? I hope you're doing very well. Welcome to another biology class. I'm your biology teacher, MD Zahidul Hasan. So, today we are going to learn from the chapter Plant Physiology, and today our topic is photosynthesis and also the photophosphorylation. Okay, so let's start with the photosynthesis. So, what is photosynthesis? Photosynthesis is a process which is used by plants to convert light energy into chemical energy, and that can be used to fuel the organism's activities. Okay, here the word photosynthesis, the word actually the word photosynthesis is a Greek word. Okay, so here the word photos means light, and the synthesis means putting together. So photosynthesis is the process by which plants and even some bacteria, especially more specifically the cyanobacteria, use the energy from sunlight to produce carbohydrates, sugars, glucose. And then these carbohydrates, by cellular respiration, it converts into ATP, the fuel, which is used by all living things. Okay, so the conversion of unusable sunlight energy into the usable chemical energy is associated with the photosynthesis, and these things it's also supported by the green pigment chlorophyll. Okay, so here this is the chemical equation of photosynthesis. Here the 6 molecule of carbon dioxide, when it reacts with the 12 molecule of oxygen, 12 molecule of water. In the presence of sunlight within the chloroplast with the help of chlorophyll, these 6 molecule of carbon dioxide and 12 molecule of water, 12 molecules of water, it converts into 1 molecule of glucose and 6 molecule of oxygen and 6 molecule of water. Okay, so this is the overall chemical equation of photosynthesis, and now let's talk about the site of photosynthesis, the photosynthetic organ. Okay, in most plants, the photosynthesis is held in the cytoplasmic organelle called plastid. The plastid, and here the green plastid is chloroplast, because it contains green pigments chlorophyll. So chlorophylls are present in the thylakoid membrane of the chloroplast. Okay, and then they are the green because they reflect green light. Chloroplasts are mainly located in the mesophyll tissue of leaves. Okay. Mm, and see here, this is the mesophyll region of the plant leaves, and within this mesophyll region these are the chloroplast, and here is the animated more zoom picture of the chloroplast. See, these are the thylakoid and these are the stroma, that means the matrix of the chloroplast. Okay, so and these are the stomata of the leaves, and this stomata on the underside of the leaf, it allows the gas exchange. Okay, and, the entry of carbon dioxide and the release of oxygen. Okay, so for this reason green leaves are recognized as photosynthetic organs of plant. Okay, so now let's talk about the components of photosynthesis. Usually, there are 4 essential components of photosynthesis. The first one is light, and then chlorophyll, water, and carbon dioxide. Okay, the light is the most significant components of photosynthesis. Um, light is a electromagnetic radiation within a certain portion of the electromagnetic spectrum. Okay, the visible light is usually defined as the interesting thing is the plant can use only the visible light of sunlight for photosynthesis purpose. Okay, here the electromagnetic spectrum of the light, among the this large electromagnetic spectrum, the plant can only use the visible lights of this electromagnetic spectrum. Mm, See here, the visible light is really defined as having the wavelengths in the range of 400 to 700 nanometers. Okay, and between the is this infrared ray wavelength and also the ultraviolet ray. Okay, So the plant can use only this visible spectrum. The visible spectrum is the portion of the electromagnetic spectrum. It has 7 colors of different wavelength. Okay, the colors are uh, mm, violet, blue, blue, green, green, yellow, orange, and red, and it is symbolized as the VIV-GIOR. Okay, so VIV-GYOR. Okay, so plants actually mostly absorb the red and blue wavelengths. That means here this red wavelength and this blue wavelength, and they do not absorb light from this green wavelength. Okay, so researchers found that the maximum amount of photosynthesis that take place under this red color. Okay, and the wavelength of this red color spectrum is 650 nanometer to 760 nanometer. Okay. Okay, now let's see the chlorophylls. Chlorophyll are the major photosynthetic pigment in plant. Actually, this chlorophyll, they are embedded in the thylakoid membrane of chloroplast in the cells of the mesophyll tissue of leaves. And there are different types of chlorophyll, such as chlorophyll A, chlorophyll B, and almost all photosynthetic plants actually they have chlorophyll A. Okay, in higher plants and algae, chlorophyll B also exists, along with chlorophyll C, another type of chlorophyll. So according to modern scientists, the light energy absorbed by chlorophyll A is straightly used in photosynthesis. Okay, and however the light energy absorbed by the chlorophyll is used in photosynthesis by donating through the chlorophyll A. Okay, so there are two types of chlorophyll A. The first one is called chlorophyll A673, because chlorophyll A673 is responsible for absorbing 673 nanometer wavelengths of light, and the chlorophyll A683, another type of chlorophyll, which is responsible for absorbing 683 nanometer wavelengths of light. Okay, so beside this chlorophyll A673 and chlorophyll A683, there are chlorophyll A P700 and chlorophyll A P680, which are responsible for here the chlorophyll A P700. It absorbs the 700 nanometer wavelength light, and P680 it absorbs the wavelength of light 680 nanometer. Okay, so within the thylakoid membrane of chloroplast, the chlorophyll and related electron receptors they exist as a unit. Okay, and this unit is called photosystem. Okay, actually the photosynthesis hails within these photosystems. In chloroplast, there are two types of photosystems, and they interconnected each other by electron transport chain. Okay, so the photosystem one, yes, the photosystem one is maximally excited by light at longer wavelengths P700, because it comprises of chlorophyll A P700, chlorophyll A 683, and also the carotenoids, another kind of pigments, usually the red in color, and the chlorophyll A of its reaction center actually they severely absorbs this P 700 nanometer wavelengths of light. And the photosystem 2, it comprises of chlorophyll A680, chlorophyll A670, and carotenoids. So the chlorophyll A of its reaction center actually they severely absorbs the shorter wavelength than the photosystem 1 is 680 nanometer wavelengths of light they absorb. That's why yeah, P680 they contain. Now and another two components of photosystem was water and carbon dioxide. Water is one of the vital components of photosynthesis in plant, because plants get this water for photosynthesis through their roots. Okay, water takes part in photosynthetic process and splits into its proton and oxygen, and then actually this water functions as a source of hydrogen for the photosynthetic production of glucose. So see, this water is the source of hydrogen for the photosynthetic product glucose C6H12, had the 12 hydrogen. Okay, and then the carbon dioxide, also the another very essential component for the photosynthesis is the carbon dioxide. It provides the main raw material for the production of carbohydrates, that means glucose C6H12O6, and the carbon C6, that means 6 carbon, it comes from the carbon dioxide. Okay, only 1% of atmospheric carbon dioxide actually used in photosynthetic process. Okay, and the stomata that present on the leaves remain open during the daytimes, and at first carbon dioxide enter into substomatal chamber, and then it passes to the mesophyll tissue by means of diffusion, and within the chloroplast of this palisade and spongy parenchyma of mesophyll, carbon dioxide reacts with water, and then it produces the targeted product, glucose carbohydrate. Okay. Uh, yeah, this is a photosynthesis mechanism, overall photosynthesis mechanism. This is a very complex process. It involves a series of chemical reaction and that require carbon dioxide, water, sunlight, enzymes, cofactors, uh, coenzymes, so many things. Okay, and then it produces the target glucose. So photosynthesis is actually a redox reaction. That means a reduction and oxidation both occurs simultaneously. So in this process, water molecules are photooxidized to release oxygen and protons, and through the reduction reaction, carbon dioxide produce carbohydrate. Okay, and the British physiologist Blackman in 1905 he divided the photosynthesis reaction into two parts: the light reaction, light dependent reaction, and the light independent reactions. Okay, so the light dependent reactions are held in grana of the chloroplast. Okay, they held in the grana, thylakoid grana of the chloroplast in the presence of the light, and the light independent reactions are held in the stroma, that means the matrix of the chloroplast, in the absence of light. The light dependent reaction produce ATP, NADPH2, and the light independent reaction then they utilize this product to produce carbohydrate. Okay, so this is the overall photosynthesis. Divides into two portions: light dependent and light independent stage. And then the light dependent stage, it has two more phase: cyclic photophosphorylation and non-cyclic photophosphorylation. I will describe both of these photophosphorylation in this lecture. Okay, now the light dependent reactions. Okay, so the light dependent reactions or the photoreaction is the first stage of photosynthesis. Okay, sorry, yes, photosynthesis is and in this process plants capture and store energy from sunlight. Okay, the main function of this reaction is to provide a source of ATP and reduced NADP, that means NADPH2, which are then used to produce carbon dioxide in the light independent reaction. Okay, so light strikes chlorophyll A in such a way as to it excite electrons to a higher energy state. And in a series of reactions, the energy is converted into ATP and NADPH2. And water in this reaction is split in this process and released oxygen as a byproduct of this reaction. So actually the oxygen which is produced in the photosynthesis process is a byproduct of this reaction. Okay, this was not the main target of the photosynthesis. The main target of the photosynthesis is glucose production. But though this is a byproduct, but the very important, very essential product. Okay, because all other organisms, even of plant and animals, everything depends on this oxygen. They are dependent on this oxygen. Okay, in the process of photosynthesis, the phosphorylation of ADP to ATP using the energy of sunlight is called photophosphorylation. You know, the um, um, process of ATP formation from the ADP and inorganic phosphate is called the phosphorylation, the addition of phosphorus, inorganic phosphate. Okay, so when the light used or the light energy is utilized in the phosphorylation reaction is called the photophosphorylation. In this photophosphorylation, light energy is used to create a high energy electron donor and a lower energy electron acceptor. Okay, so electrons then move spontaneously from donor to acceptor through an electron transport chain. Only two sources of energies are available to living organisms, okay, sunlight and the reduction oxidation reactions. All organisms produced ATP, which is the universal energy currency, that ATP, adenosine triphosphate, we also called it biological currency in our body, or in animals body, in plants body. Okay, so during the photochemical phase of this that means these light dependent reactions, light is trapped by the photosynthetic pigments present in the granathylakoids, and these pigments are organized into two pigment system called photosystem 1 and photosystem 2. You already learned about it, and in both the systems all pigment molecules help in trapping the light energy, and all other molecules they transfer the energy to the reaction center to be used for the photochemical reaction in photosynthesis. So during the light reactions, ATP formation take place through two types of phosphorylation reaction. So listen carefully. During the light reactions, ATP formation actually takes place through two types of phosphorylation reactions, and there these two types of reactions are non-cyclic photophosphorylation and another one is a cyclic photophosphorylation. Okay. So now, yeah, the non-cyclic photophosphorylation. This is the overall process of the non-cyclic photophosphorylation. Okay. So in all higher plants, non-cyclic photophosphorylation held through the photosystem 1 and photosystem 2 both, and also the electron transport system. So in this process, the electrons lost by P680, that means photosystem 2, and then which is taken up by photosystem 1 P700. Okay, and the electron then do not get back to P680. That's why this is called the non-cyclic photophosphorylation. Scientists Hill and Bendel in 1964 they explained the reactions of this process. Okay. So Hill and Bendel in 1964 they discovered and explained this reaction in a process of zigzag or Z-shaped path of the electron. This here, see, this is the zigzag Z-shaped pathway of the electrons. So the non-cyclic process is also called the Z scheme of electron transport. Okay. So it takes place, and this non-cyclic photophosphorylation reaction takes place in the grana of chloroplast, and it requires participation of both the photosystem 1 and photosystem 2. The transfer of electrons through the electron transport system is actually unidirectional. See here, the unidirectional or non-cyclic. Okay. So at the very beginning, the chlorophyll A in the photosystem 2, and that means the P680 of chlorophyll A is activated on receiving photons of P673 673 nanometer wavelength of light. So it expels, so then when it receives this wavelength of light, it becomes supercharged, and then it expels two electrons, okay, two energy containing electrons at the and at the same time these two energy containing electrons also at the same time these two electrons also replaced by the two electrons which comes from the photolysis of water. See here, the water after photolysis it produced two electrons, and so these two electron replaced actually two electron is then refill the lost electron of reaction center P680. Okay, and then this expelled two electrons jumps to the higher energy level of electron transfer system and received by motile compound pheophytin, and this is a primary electron acceptor, and then it transferred these two electron to plastoquinone of electron transport system. Okay, and then these 2 electrons from this plastoquinone transferred to the cytochrome complex, and more specifically cytochrome F, and then cytochrome B, and in this step some energy is released. As a result, ADP is converted into ATP. Okay, and then electrons in the cytochrome complex, it then transfers to the plastocyanin, which donate those electrons to the reaction center P700 of the photosystem 1. Okay, and the chlorophyll A P700 of photosystem 1 is then activated on receiving photons of 683 nanometer wavelength of the light. So see, the plastocyanin, it passes its 2 electrons here, and then when the light of the 683 nanometer wavelength emits here, it becomes supercharged, and then the electron of this photosystem 1 within the P700 chlorophyll A, it then it becomes supercharged, and then it expels its 2 electrons again. Okay, and this time the primary acceptor, it receives these 2 electrons, and then it pass this electron to the ferredoxin. Okay, the ferredoxin then, after receiving this electron, and the ferredoxin, then it transfers this electron to NADP reductase, and this NADP reductase enzyme, then with the help of the proton ion, it hydrolyze, with the help of this proton ion, it then reduces this NADP into NADPH2. Okay, so this is the overall non-cyclic phosphorylation process. So through this process here, we get ATP NADPH2, our targeted molecules. And then let's see the cyclic photophosphorylation process. Here in this process, in this light reaction of photosynthesis, the ATP is formed from ADP, an inorganic phosphate, in the presence of light and photosystem 1. Okay, during the cyclic transfer of electron, here the cyclic, this see here the electron transfers cyclically, that's why this is called the cyclic photophosphorylation, and this process is actually predominant in bacteria, algae, cyanobacteria, and the green plant. Even in the green plant, when the NADP supply is not available, see there is no NADP here, that means when the NADP supply is reduced or stopped, then the cyclic photophosphorylation take place. Okay, so in this process the electrons travel through different carriers of electron transfer systems and then return back to the photosystem 1. That's why this is called the cyclic photophosphorylation. It takes place in the grana of chloroplast, and it requires participation of photosystem 1 only. No photosystem 2 is required here, and the movement of electron is cyclic. Okay, so at the very beginning the chlorophyll A P700 from photosystem 1 is activated by the photons of 683 nanometer wavelength of light. So then when it becomes supercharged, it expels 2 energy containing electrons, and then this 2 energy containing electron is actually it receives by the ferredoxin. Okay, ferredoxin, and then ferredoxin, it transferred these 2 electrons to plastoquinone, and the plastoquinone, it then transferred this electron to cytochrome complex, more specifically cytochrome B. And the plastoquinone electron, when it transferred to the cytochrome B, the cytochrome here, there is another cytochrome which is called cytochrome F, and in this step, and during this electron transfer process, some energy actually released, and that's why, and this energy, and then this energy, this released energy is utilized by ADP, an inorganic phosphate, and there, as a result, this ADP and inorganic phosphate, they produce ATP, by using this energy. Okay, and then the cytochrome complex, they transfer their to electron to plastocyanin, and the plastocyanin then transfer, finally it transfer back to those two electrons to photosystem 1. Okay, see, in the cyclic process, neither photosystem 2 or the photolysis of water are involved, and as a result, NADP is not formed here, and oxygen is also not evolved here. So here in this cyclic photophosphorylation, it only produce ATP, okay, adenosine triphosphate, the biological currents. So it is very clear that the overall light reaction consists of the non-cyclic and the cyclic photophosphorylation reaction, and the products of this light reaction, cyclic and non-cyclic both, are ATP, NADPH2, and oxygen. And the oxygen is liberated from the oxygen, then it released from the plants, green plants, and ATP and NADPH2 are then used in the following dark reactions. That means the second phase of the photosynthesis, and these products of this light reaction, that means the ATP and NADPH2, are called the assimilatory power. Okay, so there are the differences between cyclic and non-cyclic photophosphorylation. Only photosystem 1 is involved in cyclic photophosphorylation. Both photosystem 1 and 2 are involved in non-cyclic photophosphorylation. P700 is the active center in cyclic. P680 is the active center in non-cyclic photophosphorylation. The electron travels in a cyclic manner in cyclic photophosphorylation. Electron travels in all non-cyclic manner in non-cyclic photophosphorylation. Electrons revert back to photosystem 1 because it's a cyclic transfer occurs here, and electrons from photosystem 1 are accepted by NADP, and then it reduced to NADPH2. And ATP molecules are also produced here, and in non-cyclic ATP and NADPH2 both molecules are produced, and water is not required, and but in non-cyclic photolysis of water is also present. NADPH2 is not synthesized here in cyclic, but in non-cyclic NADPH2 is synthesized. Oxygen is not evolved as the byproduct here in cyclic photophosphorylation, and oxygen is evolved as a byproduct in this non-cyclic photophosphorylation. So and more importantly, this cyclic photophosphorylation, actually this process is predominant only in bacteria, okay, but in non-cyclic photophosphorylation actually it takes place in all kind of green plants, even in bacteria. Okay, so now a sample CQ for you. See here the stem. Sunlight is the source of all energy. Green plants convert this energy into chemical energy as food, and see here the photosystem, and its components: photon, primary acceptor, reaction center, pigment molecules. This is a photosystem. This is a model of a photosystem. So you have to answer these 4 questions from this above stem, and each of these questions and the marks of this question is 1, 2, 3, and 4 respectively. So what is photophosphorylation? You know what is photophosphorylation? So in this question you have to write the definition of photophosphorylation, and you have to write about the photosystem 1 and photosystem 2, their components, and then you have to write the differences between the cyclic and non-cyclic photophosphorylation. And the 4th question is you have to show the diagrammatic representation of light reactions of photosynthesis. See the diagrammatic representation of light reactions. The light reactions means light reactions. That means 2 reactions, the cyclic and non-cyclic both. Okay. So that's all for today. Thank you all.